Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Davis, and you are watching Conversations in Pop Culture. And yes, I am scandalous like an Ashley, and I do want to remind everybody that this episode is brought to you by Pocket Jack Comics. They have an awesome book out in comic shops right now, Guinevere and the Divinity Factory, which sort of came out April, May. You still might be able to get a few copies in some comic shops. It's an awesome book. It's got beautiful covers, beautiful art in there. It's a cool fantasy, sort of wizardy story, so go check it out. And if your local comic shop doesn't have it, make them get it. As well as the people over at Pocket Jack Comics do have a Whatnot channel. And if you sign up for Whatnot right now and you're a first-time user, you get $15 credit there. As well as you can use the code Andrew for an additional 15% off of some very sexy comic artwork. So go support my sponsor because it helps make this show happen if you're in the business for that. And Preston's got some great deals going on, usually on Friday. So enough about that, though, because I have with me, returning again, Rob Multari. So welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, I'm always happy to have you on. And I like Nightwolf, and it's an interesting book, and I believe you have that going on right now. I believe Volume 1, and I think Volume 2 is the new one, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, we're collecting issues 5 through 8, and then we're also doing 16 additional story pages by 4 guest writers, and we are also doing pinup art and other stuff. So the book will be over 152 pages.
Yeah, so we're going to get into all this and obviously what you got going on and talk a little bit about some comic stuff outside of all that. But what is the basic premise of Nightwolf? Because there's people who know exactly what Nightwolf is, and there's people saying, I've never heard of Nightwolf before. And so I kind of want to catch everybody up before we get into some of the intricacies of this story. The short version.
Yeah. Right on. Yeah, so Nightwolf is a story about a young man who finds out he's born a werewolf, gets thrown into a supernatural war against demons, witches, vampires, other werewolves. Basically, he's this teenager who's in high school, who's served with a silver spoon, has everything, and his entire life gets ripped away from him.
Yeah. So, and obviously there's a little bit more into that, and tell me to shut up at any point that I'm wrong here, but obviously he meets somebody called Snowpaw who's training him, and then there's, I think, another, werewolf or Monokai, I think it's called, that's also out there fighting the Dark Covenant, and then his girlfriend gets kidnapped, and there's a complicated battle going on, and there's more than one front being fought in this whole situation. And there's also some losses. There's sort of, growing losses might be a good way to put it. And there's a lot of stuff going on here because there's a lot of politics in play between these groups.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like things going on. I like to do the not just one single storyline. I like having multiple things at play.
And then, so and there's a reason why I'm being very vague with this, because we've spoken about it a lot. So when at least 6 issues, give or take, here or there. And I'm being vague because if somebody wants to go back and look at that stuff and is really interested, I mean, we've broken this down over the course of what is this, like 4 or 5 interviews at this point now?
Yeah, I think we're like 5-ish, yeah.
So I'm being vague because I've beaten a dead horse enough. But
what is read the book?
You don't need me to give you the summary, guys. You could go read it and buy it right now on Kickstarter. Back today. But all jokes aside, obviously this is 8 issues of story at this point being collected. And what is this like? Because graphic novels are tricky on Kickstarter, because we've seen graphic novels do wonderful and do big money, and we've seen them fall flat on their face and be hell, for lack of a better word. And I think it's tricky, right? And feel free to cut me off at any point, but the way I view it is that there's people who say, I love this story and I want it in a nicer edition. And there's people saying, I'm waiting. I only collect graphic novels because I got those, and I like the first issue, but when's the graphic novel coming out?
Right.
And then you have 2 other groups. You have the third group is saying, oh, I want the super collectible thing because there's some collectible covers here that are limited. Right. And then you also have people saying, look, I read the whole thing in single issues. Why the hell do I want this in a thing? Because I want something new. So what is that like? Because I think all 4 of those things are really fair arguments to either buy or not buy a graphic novel.
It is. And that's why I do the additional story pages that you can only get in the trade collections. They're not, in the single issues. So that way there is something new. So that's kind of like almost a new issue, if you will, per volume. And, then also as far as like the collectability standpoint, the hardcovers, have that die cut, but not only is it that they die cut, they're also a connecting scene. So all 3 volumes will connect into one big like mural, if you will, with the different werewolves underneath the die cut. And so there's that collectability, that it's a unique piece. It's not just a regular hardcover, but for the people who think that might be a little pricey and or they just want to read the book, we have the soft cover as well.
Yeah, so let's actually talk about this because this is interesting because I like books. At this point, it's really interesting with what's going on because, and I don't deal with this particularly in my business, but I know some people do, where there are some really rare graphic novels from Marvel because they're out of print.
Right.
And so a book that you cost 20 sometimes goes for 80. And that happens sometimes. And so obviously there's that, but there's also the idea that, hey, look, I want to put this on my shelf because I have bookshelves around my house. And sometimes I just like looking at a beautiful book on my bookshelf. I don't even want to read it. I just want to know it's there.
Right.
And it's the same thing with having a Blu-ray, right?
Mm-hmm.
You say, oh, why do you have a Blu-ray? But guess what? If I have the Blu-ray, you can never tell me I can't see this.
Right. Yeah. If they take it off whatever streaming service, you have it still.
So what is that like? Because I think there is some fair argument to say, well, at some point you probably will not print Nightwolf at a certain point, some of these issues.
I mean, I'm not reprinting like the single issues. So like once those are gone, they're gone. Unless like for whatever reason, if I decide to go with like a larger publisher, and we decide to put them into like the retailers through like Diamond or whatever distributor, there might be like a retail specific variant. But yeah, as far as like the copies I have, once those are gone, they're gone. So that's partially why like I limit the numbers of like my higher end variants so that there's a little bit more of a collectability to them. And like I said, once those are gone, they're gone.
Because that's kind of, I think, interesting is that obviously you have that market, but then when you start going into the collectible books, because what's the limit on the die cuts?
500.
So, I mean, 500 is not a small number, but it's also not a large number either.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the other thing too, is that it's also the idea that what happens if Nightwolf gets signed to a television show or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. And at this point, and feel free to tell me to shut up at any point here, I'm getting too close to the sun, but at some point, I mean, every comic property is on the table now for any television, Netflix, or anything. It's just a matter of when, not if.
So what you're asking though is if like I happen to run out of this particular hardcover set,
because this goes into the collectability, right?
Right.
And that's what's interesting. That's what I think is so interesting about what you're doing is that you're basically saying, and follow my logic for 1 sec, is that I like the fact that you are making a collectible graphic novel, because I think that sometimes is what's missing with these campaigns that do graphic novels, is that there's no good reason for me to buy an upper level tiered graphic novel, and you're providing that. And that's what I think is interesting about your campaign right now.
Yeah. I mean, as far as like, once the die cuts are gone, I'm not going to reprint them. But that doesn't mean I don't do another hardcover, just a regular plain hardcover. You know what I mean? That could be something that could be more widely distributed because it's more affordable for me. When I'm doing the die cut and everything with that special vellum overlay of the werewolf, that adds to my cost. And so that's why limiting it makes it more collectible. Whereas like, just doing a plain Jane hardcover or soft cover, like, I do have the soft cover option. So those are like available and could be available for longer running situations, especially if like it does blow up to the point where like it's going to be mass produced and put into bookstores like Barnes and Noble and other places like that. But that you won't see this like in mass distributed, because after the 500 is gone, they're gone. You know what I mean?
So let's actually talk about this though, because this is interesting as well, where And here's how you feel about Kickstarter, where I feel that every Kickstarter now needs a hook, and you need things like that die cut cover, or you need foils, or you need some weird way how to do something. I don't know exactly the words here, but like you have to earn my money at this point.
Yeah, and I think that's like why like the average spend on a Kickstarter campaign is higher than, like people who typically spend $5 for a book at a comic shop or a retailer or whatever, they're not particularly like going to, unless they're like avid collectors, they're not going to Kickstarter to buy these like, upper tier premium, limited editions, because that's really what Kickstarter is. If done properly, you're basically getting a premium product, at a very limited, print run. So I think that's like the main difference. And like you said, having a hook or having the reason, like what's the premium? What's so special about this? And that's our job as the creator to think about that and moving forward. And that's why, like with this hardcover set, I've already, like when I put for the first one out, I said, okay, this is going to be a connecting 3 set piece. And then eventually when the third volume comes out, I'm going to have slipcases to slide them all in together. Like that's like things I'm already forward thinking about,
Let's touch upon this, where there are points where I did an interview right before you. That was planned out a while ago, where there are 3 of those, and I've done all 3 of them. Just so happens that all 3 of them came right at the right time. And they came relatively close to each other. And then there was a 4th that got snuck in there somehow too, into the same sector. But that was all planned, where that was supposed to happen within 3 months of each other, and it kind of did. And I think this is what's interesting. And I think this is where Kickstarters and creators fail sometimes, is that you have to figure out what you're doing on issue 4. Sometimes, not necessarily the story, but hey, if I have a cover, how does cover for number 4 connect to number 2? Because you want to sell number 2 on campaign number 4 of the same series if you have leftovers. And I think this is where the business side of this all fails. And this is where I think we're running into problems on Kickstarter, is that a lot of people don't know how to do that. And it's not a matter, oh, you are on number 75 of your campaign. No, it's understanding where you're going. And also, I think sometimes people just don't have the capital to do it either.
But yeah, that plays a big part.
So, because I think you've pumped a lot of capital into what you're doing.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have printed, like, so with all of the books and all the variants, like I said, I limit them, but I go to offset. Like I'm printing like a couple thousand total of each issue, but then you break that down into like the limited editions of the variants and all that. But I made sure that I have enough that like I can come back to Kickstarter with certainty that like, okay, I know this like $25 cover isn't going to sell like hundreds, right? So like I still have some that I can sell in like those packages. Same with like I have plenty of like the standard issue that like I can have enough that I have the entire print run for new people to come in and grab them.
Yeah, no, I think unfortunately a lot of people sometimes in this realm is that because that costs you more money up front.
Yeah, but then once you get into doing instead of doing like digital printing, it's cheaper to do the offset printing. So then that brings the more I print, it brings the cost per unit down. So that it's actually better for instead of printing something for $250 and selling it for $5, I'm printing it at like $180 and selling it for $5.
I'll give you an example that's in my business. I buy wholesale cards. So instead of buying, I just bought a set. It expires. So I can talk about it now. So it's all right. So nobody can compete. One of the sets for 5 cards costs $25. 5 costs $60 for 5 cards of 5. So 25 cards. Then you go to 10, it costs $100. And then if you go to 25, it costs $150. So that means that going from 1 to 25, it's $6 a pack. So now to be competitive, everybody's selling it for 16. So now it's $16 to $18. So if I buy mine for 6 and I sell for 15, I'm making a decent profit. Do I have to incur more debt on the front end? Absolutely. But there's also more profit. to be
Well, that's
made.
it. Yeah, I mean, you're bringing up your profit margin when you're putting more into it and saving in the long run.
So, and then on top of that, you get free shipping because you're over $100. So that helps a lot too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's $10. So all of a sudden, like, and I think this is what, but I have the capital to do it. And this is what I think is really the problem right now is that I have a lot of friends who are just starting out and they don't have the capital to do it. And this is where I think this is the biggest issue in Kickstarter is that I hear everything. Oh, here's what you need to do with your book. Here's how you make your story. Here's the cover artist. But we don't talk about the back end of campaigns.
Yeah, what you do afterwards, and if you're continuing on.
Or how do you find money? Where do you borrow money from? What do you do? How do you handle your finances? And this is the part that kills me on Kickstarter. And this is why
I mean, that's also like to be said. You should be putting your own skin in the game before you come to Kickstarter. You know what I mean? Like for example, before I started running Kickstarters, I paid for the artwork and all that to be done for like I did my freelance web design, graphic design jobs, right? That's outside of Kickstarter. That's money I made previously to make the art and put the book together. Then I go to Kickstarter, and then I pay, Kickstarter basically pays for the printing and the shipping and the tchotchkes and all like the other premium stuff that you get with the Kickstarter. You know what I mean? So like I'm already like in the hole starting out. I hope to make it up when I'm doing it, but I'm finding a way to offset that extra cost with the knowledge I can doing it on my own on the side. That's something that like you're saying, a lot of people don't do that. They expect Kickstarter to pay it all for themselves, right? And unfortunately, that's not the way of the world. Unless you like knock it out of the park and you have like one of the off chances that you've made one of the best Kickstarters out there, right? Normally for the people who are out there and you're gonna hit probably anywhere between a couple thousand to 5,000. If you're like next level, you probably get up past 10, and then like the really extreme levels anywhere like 30 plus, right? So again, the normal creator out there should be putting in their own skin in the game, paying for stuff, the art, everything themselves, trying to figure out what they can do to do that, then come to Kickstarter. Like I said, I think a lot of people don't do that, and then they fall short. And then when they have to like put out the book, then I think that's why a lot of like campaigns don't get fulfilled, because people are like, oh crap, I funded, but I don't have enough to make the book and ship it now.
I'll add to that. I even think some of these campaigns that are doing 30, 40,000 are in similar positions, because when you make more money, you spent more money.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sometimes, also when you're running 4 or 5 projects, money from project A might go into project B, and then it's not, and you're borrowing money from the same company. So it's just moving one cargo container to the other side of the ship. So, but at the same time, that means that book gets delayed. Right. And I've seen this way too many times where books that were supposed to be in my hand 9 months ago are now getting in my hands today. So they're 9 months late.
Not at all.
but they said in updates that the art was 3 months ahead. So I'm sorry, this is like a 12-month swing here. Right,
yeah.
And what I think it is that I think somebody's managing too many projects. Either it's a money problem, or it's that you're managing 6 projects all at once, and then something's got to go.
Right.
But you just did $45,000. But
right.
your costs go up because you're printing a hell of a lot more content.
Oh yeah, you're printing more, but the main cost that people forget about is the poker chips, the challenge coins, the things that are not that aren't cheap printing things. Like when I do a lot of my my bonus rewards, there are papers like bonuses, right? Like cards or stuff like that, stickers, stuff you can stick in with your prints, mini prints, the stuff that you can stick in that don't add a lot of weight to your mailing. A lot of people, once they get up past a certain amount, they're like, oh, I have to have a lanyard, I have to have this, I have to have one of these metal pins that I'm giving away to everybody, I'm giving out magnets that add weight to the cost of the shipping. Plus the cost of these things aren't, minimal. Those are pretty pricey, especially when you're getting up into the larger numbers. So, I agree. And if you have one of those campaigns that have like, let's just say 20 plus covers, those artists aren't cheap. Those artists are like 500 plus per
And they
cover.
become more expensive as of lately.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly it. So like, people don't understand that, like, if you start going far past if you go past the breaking point, the back end's going to be messy, and that's what's delaying books. That's what, people are like, oh, well, why isn't this happening? Why aren't I getting my books? Well, sometimes people overstretch themselves, and you have to think about, okay, what can you manage, especially if you're fulfilling yourself. Like for me, I fulfill all my stuff. So I get everything in from my printers and my, where I'm getting everything. And then I set up in my front room in my house, and I run an assembly line. I pack that stuff up and I put it and take it to the post office. Like if you have like, 1,000 people backing your campaign and you're making like over 100K and you're doing it all by yourself, that's a lot of work. And, especially if this is a side thing and not even a full-time job.
Yeah, so I agree because I'm packing like 80 to 90 cars a week now on my Saturday, and it sucks. It sucks. Now not this weekend. I was doing something else this weekend. But it was a good weekend, everybody. Different story. It'll be a Friday night story with a good friend of mine. But this is the point though, is that when you're packing out 90 cards is not as bad as it sounds when somebody's buying 5 of one card, and you could all throw 5 of them in there. But oh my God, it sucks so much. It is brutal. And you look at how much money you're making too on those 90 cars, and the margin is so thin, and you're like, fucking Christ, this sucks. So I have sympathy. If you have 100 backers, it's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if you did 100,000 and you have 1,000 backers or 1,500 backers or 2,000 backers, and you hire somebody, it's still going to be as expensive. It's just going to be faster. It's going to get out faster. If you have 2 or 3 people working, you're going to get done.
And then you're dipping into like, that like you're paying somebody, and you're not paying them like cheaply, like somebody's going to be like, listen, I'll do it for, even if they do it for minimum wage, or under the table, whatever, you're still like giving them at least like $10 an hour. You know what I mean? Like, or something there.
Or you get your kids in there and you say, I'll take out the garbage, you do the comic work.
If you can trust your kids enough. Let me tell you, I don't trust mine. I have a 16 and a 14-year-old and a 6-year-old. The only thing I trust my sons to do, the 2 teenagers, is to put boards in bags. After that, I'm doing everything else.
But the 6-year-old is killing it right now.
Oh yeah. She's out there doing, she's ninja kicking the books to me.
She's writing the next series, guys. You didn't know? She's putting you out of a job. That's what's going to happen.
Good. I can retire then.
God, this is terrible. That's so terrible. I figured I could get away with that joke. That's why I made it.
Nah.
No. But like, this is the part, and I don't understand. I'm really curious. Your position is that I don't know why this is not spoken about, because every single comic book show on the internet in Kickstarter talks about creation, promoting people's campaigns, but we don't talk about the back end.
Oh yeah, never.
And I don't understand why. It baffles the fuck out of me. I'm genuinely confused, because all I want to do is talk about the back end. All I want to do is talk about your money and how to make you more money and how to manage your money. Like, genuinely, that's it. Because it's operations and logistics. That's all this is. And I'm getting, I guess, agitated as a fan of Kickstarter that this is just so broken.
Well, again, it goes back to creators are typically artists or writers, right? They don't normally have a background in business. They just think that they can take their creation and put it out there and hope that, like, it'll all work out in the end, right? But when you are a creator, especially a self-publisher and you're putting these books out, and if you're like paying, like, in my case, I'm the writer, I'm paying for the art, but then I'm doing everything else. Like, this is what I say at like Comic Cons when people are like, oh, you're just the writer. I'm like, oh no, I put the books together, I letter them, I send them off to the printer, I do all the fulfillment, I make my website, I do my
You're
own
the art director. You're
art
the art
director, salesman, marketer, everything. Like, I am doing pretty much everything except for the illustration and colors. And, so that's basically what we have to think about is not only are we being the creator and we're running the book and all this stuff, we have to think about it as a business and think about how, with your business hat, what you can do from not taking out of your pocket anymore. Once you get like that pocket money seated, you should start to be able to see it rotate and then be able to like get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you can either invest back into your next project or into your business to grow your business. And that's something that I've been able to do, going like between Kickstarters and going to Comic Cons. I've been able to grow my business and continue on doing this for the last 7 years.
See, it's interesting, right? Because what I do in my eBay business, and this is related, but it's also different, is, I have a philosophy of first dollar in, first dollar out. So if I borrowed $1,000 and then I turn that 1,000 into 1,500, the first $1,000 needs to come out. And then the $500 is there. Now you can choose what you want to redo with that and what you want to do with that $1,000, but it has to come out. Mm-hmm. So when I run my eBay business a certain way, where there are two methodologies, and I think this is the methodology that should be done on Kickstarter, and it kind of goes to you a little bit. What you're saying is that, great, you put $6,000 in, no matter which way you cut it, you're going to have to take some type of loss somehow. Mm-hmm. Most people are going to have to do it, whether that's money you earned or you hustled for it, but you gotta get a seed fund in.
Yeah.
Then if you make $8,000 on your campaign, you pay for all the printing, all the art, you have a choice on what you want to do. Once you get first dollar in, first dollar out, you could cash out, or you could start paying yourself back a little bit of that money that you borrow from yourself, and then slowly grow it till you get to your whole 6,000 is paid back, and then you have a free shot and you have free seed money. It might take you 6 Kickstarters to do it. I don't think people want to do it that way.
For sure, it's not something that's going to happen overnight, unless you, like I said, unless you were like that lucky star that somehow you blow up.
What I'm describing is the debt-free way how to do it. Mm-hmm. It's slow. You're going to be the tortoise. It's going to be ugly, and it ain't going to be fun. I think nobody wants to be the tortoise.
Nobody wants to be, but that's the majority.
But everybody's trying to be the hare, but they're not the tortoise. Because if you go to the tortoise and you do that to 6 Kickstarters or 8 Kickstarters, and you have a debt-free business, all of a sudden, everything you make on your 7th or 8th campaign now is gravy. Mm-hmm. And then you could really reinvest it, but you put no risk into it. It's just you're going to be slow as fuck. Because what I'm seeing is the exact opposite of this right now. And the reason why I want to talk to you about that in particular is that you obviously are very good at executing what you've done. Mm-hmm. And you're the exception. You're not the norm. And that's why this is interesting, because I've seen so many people who have debt. And they look like they don't have debt on their business, but I can smell it a mile out. I can see it. I know their numbers. What have to know their numbers. I mean, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I don't want to name names, but there are some of our colleagues and our acquaintances. You could smell the debt on their business. And I'm not going to name names because I'm going to be vague, but there's 30 of them. Easy. So, I mean, this is what I don't get, though, is that, like, how do we fail in business here?
I think it's not having. I mean, and for the most part, like, I'm self-taught, you know what I mean? So it's not like it can't be done, I think probably life experience also has a lot to do with that. Like, if you, just in general, like if you're, when you live, you're like with a household, you have to manage your budget at home, right? Or else you're and your family are going to be out on the curb. It's, it's the same kind of concept is like when you're, you're saving to do something, but you also, want to get the equity in your home, you want your car, you know what I mean? Like you still have, so much that you have to figure out, but you have to put the numbers out there. You have to, can't just be the art guy. You have to work with the other side of your brain and do the numbers too. You have to do the math.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Did you also feel though that on Kickstarter right now, and part of the problem, because do you think this is a new problem or do you think it's an old problem? Because I'm not too sure what it is actually at this point. Because and I'll tell you my thought. I don't know if it's a new problem or an old problem, but I just think the problem is more visible now because money's tighter.
Yes,
And
that you hit it right on the head there. It's always been the issue, but when money was given in free and clear, people were spending more. And then now that that's all dried up and gone, and times are tougher, people have less money. Now they're being more choosy on what they're putting into buying Kickstarters or whatever. So then people who expected that their campaigns were going to be funded like they have been in the past are now starting to be like, oh, well, why am I not making this much? Why am I not making this much?
it's funny. I actually challenged somebody to an open discussion. I said, I'd love to discuss this with you, where they said, oh, I think creativity is stifled. And what I said is, creativity is not stifled. The issue here is that people are not spending as much money on Kickstarter as they used to.
Mhm.
And that this isn't because if creativity was stifled, if creativity wasn't stifled, there would be more creation and more money, and people would be buying more, and the backer numbers, the actual backers would be higher, or the value of the backer would be higher. I don't know which one it would be. It could go either way. It doesn't matter.
Right. Well, go ahead. Sorry.
What I'm getting to the point is that the issue is what I think it is that I think a lot of creators are sitting on the sideline right now. Not because they're stifled creatively, but because they're crunching numbers economically and they realize they can't do 5 campaigns, they can only do 3 to make it economically work in this circumstance because they're not funding as quickly as they used to. Money's tighter, art is more expensive, and there's bigger problems going on. Printing is more expensive, shipping is more expensive, and it's uncertain where we're going right now economically and how long this stagflation period is going to last.
Well, but like there's also like more campaigns launching every day. Like there's still like, record numbers. I mean, we're not as high, I think, as last year at this point, but I think we're like shortly just under that. But I mean, we're over like 200, almost 300 live comic book campaigns. Not everybody is going to go back every single one of those, right? So again, they're being more choosy on which ones they want to spend on. And, it has nothing, I think, to do about being stifled. It's really because there's so many out there. People think that, that there's plenty to do. Like they just have to they don't have the money to throw at everybody, but they think because they're on Kickstarter is going to bring the people. Kickstarter is the venue, just like a wedding venue, right? You got to invite the people.
Yes, exactly. You have to send out an invitation, and they still might not show up.
Right? That's just it. They're like, oh, I don't. You know what? I'm not traveling all the way to, Florida from Pennsylvania for a wedding. You know what I mean? Like I'll send maybe like a thank you for the invite card.
I'll send a $50 check with I can't make it.
But even some people are just like, I'm just going to RSVP that I can't make it and not send nothing. That's what's happening here on Kickstarter.
No, you look at me. I mean, I'm being really selective on Kickstarter right now. I mean, I'm being massively selective because I'll be really honest. I got a lot of shit. To read. Like I'm at a point where I got a lot of shit to read. Mm-hmm. I'm running a business. The economy is a fucking nightmare. I haven't even opened up half this shit.
I'm sure you saw my post like a week or two ago that with a pile of unopened Kickstarters I had.
I mean, I was at a wedding this weekend. I had a great time, everybody. That's the Friday night story. It's gonna be a fun one with my friend Keenan. But I'm saving it because it was great. But the point I'm making is that I got Travis Gibbs' Cthulhu Invades Neverland. I haven't even opened up that yet. I got to read that graphic novel. I have other things I have to read. I have to read the Cherry novel by Larry Welch from a year ago. Mm-hmm. I haven't even touched that. So why would I be backing shit when I have so much to read?
I think that's it too. Like so many people were backing so much, and if they're in the same boat as us, when we have a lot of back catalogs of stuff that we haven't even opened. Like, that's the other thing. And I think too, like, as you mentioned before, that like people are, getting the first issue and then maybe waiting for the collected edition because one, they're running out of space. They're running out of, room in their long box, right? So they need maybe put it on a bookshelf instead. And because they're being more choosy about what they're backing, they're saying, okay, well, instead of backing all 5 issues, I'm going to just do, I got the first one, I liked it. Now I'm going to wait for the collected edition and then pay one-time shipping.
It's that. It's also the idea that, I'll be really honest, I mean, I just know where I'm going to put my shit. It's very simple for me.
I mean, you see it back here, right?
And also, it is right now, sometimes what happens in my world, and this is going to sound messed up, but like, I buy a lot of comics and it's kind of one comes in, one has to go out. But if nothing's going out because it's just a slow time period, and I'm having a hard time selling books right now. I'm having an easy time selling cards. I can't keep enough baseball cards in my eBay store right now. And it's like legitimately they're selling out and they're sold out before they even arrive. It's an awesome problem. I'm running a negative merch position right now, which is unbelievable. Now, unfortunately, a baseball card, maybe I make $1 on them, $1 a card.
Yeah. Well, but that makes sense because baseball, sports in general, is going to sell more stuff and paraphernalia than like comics. Comics is a niche, and then especially indie comics is a niche, and then indie comics. So we're a niche of a niche of a niche.
I will grant you that. So I'll rephrase. Right now, the hottest stuff is the WNBA. Mm-hmm. That is outselling anything I have in my store. But it's the WNBA is just the hottest thing in sports right now. Then the second hottest thing right now is home run hitting Pete Alonso, Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, because everybody loves the Yankees. And when Aaron Judge is hitting home runs and he's slaying it, that's great. But then you got a guy like Ellie De La Cruz that does well. But the Oakland A's are not selling in my store. Like nothing against the Oakland A's, but so I agree because that's going down to the niche of a niche at that point. Yeah. But autograph stuff in sports is killing it right now. But the NBA in about 3 weeks from now is going to cool off.
Right, yeah.
But baseball season is heating up, so it's just like. But then you get the stupid cards like the raccoon running on the field, and they made a card of that. That was brilliant. $11 a card, everybody.
That's
legitimately sold out in 16 hours in my store, 17 of them, and amazing. So that's all I have to say. Hey, that raccoon was adorable.
I mean, I would have let him run the bases,
especially during the soccer game. No. But like, I don't. Getting back to this issue, because I don't think it's creativity. I just genuinely think that it's an economic problem. I think it's a macroeconomic problem. And again, I wanted to debate this person, and they didn't answer my call, and I was a little disappointed.
I mean, they probably didn't, have the math accurately either. It's people don't like to debate, they don't understand.
They're big enough that they should understand exactly what I said. And I just think that they didn't want to have a macroeconomic conversation with somebody who understands macroeconomics really well.
Valid.
I actually was genuinely insulted. I'm not mentioning who it is.
No. Yeah, don't do that.
I was genuinely offended, to be honest, because when you say I'm wrong on something and then say let's debate it, well, either we're going to debate it or your opinion doesn't matter, or what you just stated doesn't matter. Because if you're not willing to die for something and you have an opinion and then you just run away with your tail tucked between your legs, you got a problem. Like, if you think I'm wrong on anything, you should call me out on it.
I mean, I haven't had to do that yet, so you're batting 1,000.
Well, no. So, but this is why I want to talk to you, because I think you understand how to run a business and how to do something. And I think this is a real problem because not all of those campaigns on Kickstarter are going to fund, or even if they do fund, but because there's a campaign that I think just did 1,500, and I'm looking at the campaign, I'm like, you're in for a world of hurt, buddy. like, if you do $2,000, like your book doesn't have enough on $2,000, and that's another issue too. Is that I think there's a lot of bad advice right now on Kickstarter.
Yeah, I mean, people definitely have their opinions, and I think that like people need
You
to
taught
look.
me a good lesson where you ask for what you need.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need 10,000, you should be asking for 10,000 or at least 9,000. If you feel you want to take a little bit of a risk, I think if you need 10,000, you ask for 9. I think you could find $1,000 if you needed to somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, but for me, it's like, here's the thing. I would love to put out everything I want to put out, but if I'm not making it, you know, if it has to come at this point of where I in my career, if it has to come out of my pocket, then it's like, is it worth it? You know what I mean? Like I'm like at that thing of like, you know, if it doesn't go anymore, people aren't that interested, then you know, whatever. But I had, you know, my wolf pack keeps coming and they're hungry for it. They want more. So here I am. I keep going. But again, it's like you know, I got stuff, you know, I have family stuff, you know, that I got to do. I got, you know, kids, you know, turning 16 and, you know, having to have a license, and they're not cheap to insure. You know what I mean? Like college is coming up. I got life stuff that my money's going to go to, you know what I mean? I'm not going to start digging. I've already put my time in. So now it's like, you know, you see what I'm saying?
So let me ask this, because if there was an opportunity, and I'm going to be very honest. So I've obviously gone through an expansion in my eBay business. So I pumped a lot of money in. Now I cash flowed a good chunk of that, but I also tripled or quadrupled my amount of merch. And then it's first dollar in, first dollar out. But if you're in expansion mode and you're on a year-long expansion, your objective is not to cash out. It's to use as much capital without incurring any more debt. So if you pump 2K in and then that thing grew to 20,000, but you used the 2K and kept recycling the money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you is that would there ever be a point where you say, look, I am willing to pump in another $1,000 here and take a risk on something because I think if we put in $1,000, we could do another $5,000 on it. But
I think that depends on what. Like that goes back to like our conversation off air when we were talking about worth fighting for, right? And you know, if it was definitely something that like would take me to another level up, you know what I mean? Like something that was worth that extra, you know, investment in. Then
what I had to do in my eBay business is that I believe what I pumped in was worth it. And now I've overextended, which I was happy to do, but now I'm bringing it back down to a healthier level, but it's going to be at a higher level than it was at before.
Right.
But it was all cash flow relatively with minimal capital, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
But it was also a lot of work. It was a lot of execution. But I think it's a really interesting and complicated question, because it's like, what is your risk tolerance in this? Because I think this is also a problem, right? In comics at the moment, is that what is somebody going to tolerate when they're producing a book? Because it goes back to offset, right?
Right.
If I'm printing 1,500 books and I can't offset it, should I go up to 2,500 or 3,000 and spend what would the extra cost off the top of your head be? Would it be like another grand?
Yeah, roughly.
So what would 3,000 offset comics cost versus 1,500?
So that depends on the printer. But I would say
Take a guess.
average 3,000 comics on average.
You know where I'm going with this, right?
So it's you're looking at like $1.70 per book at $3,000, whereas like at 1,500, you're probably looking closer to $2 per unit.
So the point is that if somebody has to pump in another $1,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is where risk versus reward occurs.
Right.
And it goes into execution. I think this is also something that people don't understand, because I think they don't have a problem with the cover artist doing this. I think they have a problem with it doing with merch.
Yeah, I think that's true. And like again, going back, like, and this is like I think more so from like a starting standpoint versus a like at my level, like you know what I mean. Like I'm already planning to do like the offset printing and the larger numbers, but like a lot of people, like we were saying, who are doing this for the first time or who have just started, or they're probably still thinking like the low print run numbers instead of looking ahead that saying, oh well, I'm going to need stock, because if they're doing print on demand, that's like almost $3 per book that they're printing, you know what I mean? Like that's, or even more
Do
depending.
you also feel that it's an issue of, do I want stock or do I want credibility? Because I'll throw a name out there. You get John Royal. I love John Royal's work, right?
Yeah,
I go out. I don't know what John Royal costs. I'm not gonna throw out a number because I'm gonna be wrong.
he's on my bucket list, but I haven't asked him cost yet.
I don't know, so I'm not gonna comment on something I don't know. But whatever it is, right? Let's say that he's in that $400 to $600 range, right?
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So great. Do you go and take the well, we'll just average him out to 500. I don't think he's gonna mind one way or the other. If he's more, I'm sorry, John. I'm sorry. If you're less, you should charge more. But you're welcome. But not the point. But do you get a John Royal cover? Because then when somebody comes to your campaign, you now have credibility because, oh, Zenoscope artist John Royal done a bunch of Kickstarters, done a bunch of other people's projects. Or do you go and you say, I need stock, and then you have a fight for credibility issues, but you also are not going to have to reprint your book for a while.
I mean, so that's tough because I do both. Like because I have
when you're first starting out, right?
Well, yeah, when you're first starting out, yeah, I would say
it is tough, right? It's not an easy position.
Well, I think that too is like when you're first starting out, I don't think you're gonna get that level of an artist. That's that. I think you have to be proven that you're gonna be there a little bit longer. Because in my case, like I didn't start like reaching out to more known artists until like issue 4.
See, this is where I disagree though, because what I think is happening, this is just my thought. Maybe I'm wrong here, and I'm not the first person to be wrong. I think these artists will for the most part, especially in this economy, I think they'll take whatever person's got money.
I mean, honestly, I still have artists who don't think I'm at the level where they're at, and that I've actually
and this is my response to them, and I'll be very honest, is my money is as good as anybody else's money, and you're an asshole for that. You're an asshole. No, seriously, I'll tell any artist that, because that's like saying you go into a restaurant and you think the waiter is beneath you for serving you. Their job is the same as my job as far as a job. Just because my job might pay more doesn't mean anything. But you should respect their craft, and the money they earn is the same as your money. Now, if you don't want to work for them, that's fine. But you better not. You better understand that if I'm willing to pay you $600 and you say, I don't want your $600, you're telling me my money isn't the same as yours.
Well, it's not so much. All right. For example, I don't think it has anything to do with my money as being any better than their money. I think it's like when you're working for like Zenoscope, Marvel, DC, Image, they already have that's the work they're going for. They want more of that work. So if I were to pay them to do a cover, they're going to put me in the bottom of the list, and I'm going to keep getting bumped because they're getting these other jobs. You see what I'm saying?
Well, no, I get it.
Like that's where it's not so much that the whole
but
like.
Again, but again, here's the issue though: is that if you do that, what happens when you now have been typecasted, right? This all the same issue. It really is. Because I would never turn down money from somebody. Somebody says, Andrew, I want a live read. I'm like, okay, cool. You want a live read? Why not? I don't care how big you are. If you're willing to pay me my rate, I'm not turning down, because that's where my next meal's coming from.
Right.
I learned a long time ago that if you turn down work, unless you have 50,000 people knocking on your door, you should never turn down work.
Which I totally agree. I totally agree. Because especially when, you know, if I want somebody to do a cover for me, it's because I enjoy their art and I think people are going to buy their book. And not only is it like exposure for me working with them, but also it's putting their, you know, book, their art in front of an audience that may or may not know them. You know what I mean?
I've had this conversation when I want to buy wholesale from people and they will insult me. I'm like, your audience, you're about to get into my whole network on eBay. So a lot of books, and let's figure out a deal. And then somebody says, oh, no, I can't go on the eBay because it's not prestigious. I'm like, look, I just want to sell your book. We don't need to talk. I don't need you to sign it. You need to sell me 30 of your book at a wholesale price. This isn't hard. And oh, no, it's not prestigious. It's not a comic shop. And then my response is saying, look, you made it hard for me to do business with you. Because that's all it is for me. This is commodity to me. That's it. This is legitimately a stock trade. And maybe these artists, I'll be very honest, I got no problem saying it, and I'm going to get shit for this. To me, it's just a commodity trade, and it is a business. I want money, and I want a piece of art to put on my book. It's that simple. Mm-hmm. And maybe for everybody else, it's more complicated. For me, I'm in the business of making money.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I mean, and, you know, for me, like, yeah, I'm here to tell my story first, but I'm also here to continue telling my story. And that means I have to make money. And that means I'm running a business. So, you know, and when I'm hiring my artists, like, yeah, I like, you know, I will, you know, make sure that it's going to be the best it's going to be. And I'm going to try and work with the best that I can get, you know. And so if I'm going to go higher up that like creator level to like get somebody that like has like a great style, great recognition, you know, I'm going to go there and I'm going to, you know, but, you know, if you ghost me or if you keep pushing me off, well, then, you know, that's your loss because that's money that could have been anywhere.
The Undertaker said it best. The toes you stepped on the way climbing up, you have to remember they're attached to the asses you have to kiss on the way back down. and it's an amazing quote.
I mean, it's valid.
Because again, I don't care how good you are. If you're climbing the ladder, there is going to be a point where you are climbing down the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
Because the ladder does not go up forever.
Right.
And there's been plenty of artists who you're like, why are they on this book? Isn't that sort of beneath them? Weren't they on Marvel 3 years ago? What happened?
Well, I mean, then that's also look at the. I mean, is that why they're not? You know, they don't want to be like, oh, why is he? You know, somebody up or on that upper level, like, oh, what are they slumming with this guy for? You know, like that's kind of that might be part of what their mentality is when it comes to, you know, that.
Again, in the great words of the great philosopher John Cena, no opportunity is beneath me. He was in the Barbie movie, guys. He was in the Barbie movie. So we should all take a position out of him. He was our merman in the Barbie movie. Well, I made a lot of enemies tonight. I can tell you that.
He's like, you can't see me.
He was a merman. It was great. It was beautiful. There's tears in my eyes as I was watching. He's on Logan Paul and he's saying, no opportunity is beneath me. And that's my philosophy. And I understand that and I get the artist component of it. I get that completely. My response to all those people is no opportunity is beneath me. And it has served me well in my life. And that is how I run. And if whatever's working for everybody else, but we don't have to dive too much into deep to that. But it again, artists have done that to me when I wanted to book them for something. And my response has now been the following: is no opportunities beneath me. I wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors.
That's putting it politely.
Oh, no. Absolutely. It's just the standard job position. That's my favorite. I wish you the best in your future endeavors. No opportunities beneath me. And that's how we roll. But not for Rodney. Rodney has many opportunities.
And a lot of them seem to bite him in the ass.
The Nightwolf is what? Going to be 12 issues?
Yeah, well, this story arc is 12 issues. Yes, it plans to continue.
I mean, you're doing this, and then you're gonna kick off what, issue 9 in what, like a few months?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So let me ask this actually, because I'm curious, getting back to story, because I've been wondering this actually for a while now, before we got on a massive tangent.
It was a big one, wasn't it?
It was important. A lot of shit happened in that tangent. There was relevant. I think it's actually a productive.
Yeah, that was very good. Yeah.
Not. I mean, you look good. I look bad in that tangent, but I don't really care. I'm wearing a New York Mets hat, so I can get away with anything. I didn't put a puppet on my hand because if I did, that would be really good. Lizzie McGuire's not old enough. And we could go into a basement, but Dr. Dre is not there. I'm on an Eminem kick right now.
I get that.
Anyway, I will politely stand up anytime you want me to.
Will please, Slim Shady, please stand up?
That's no. Getting back to this, because I'm actually curious about, because you've done 8 issues, and obviously this is volume 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
But what is that like? Because I think one of the advantages to indie, especially if you're writing once every, or doing a Kickstarter every 3 months or every 4 months, you obviously have a lot of time in between each issue. And I think that can give a writer good and bad things, because your audience is obviously growing with you and getting older.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that a 5-year-old is reading Nightwolf.
Right.
Obviously, I don't think it's for a 5-year-old.
No, that's why I have Wolfpack pups.
But obviously, you're on Kickstarter. You hopefully you're 18. I think you have to be 18 or older to be on Kickstarter. You need to have a credit card or a debit card.
Right.
But even if somebody comes in and they're 19, what is that like? Because you've been doing this for what, 2-3 years, or is it longer with Nightwolf? I don't know
on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Since 2019.
So 5 years in. So obviously from issue 1 to now, your audience has grown older by 5 years. A lot more shit's happened in the world. I hate to be a pessimistic person here, but I think the world's gotten a lot more complicated and a lot more cynical, for lack of a better word. And how has that affected your story? Because I feel issue 1 was adult, but I feel like issue 5, it was kind of stepped up, and it definitely got darker and more serious. And what is that like? Because if somebody was reading it and they started at 19 and now they're 24, they've obviously seen a lot more of the world. What is that like? Because I don't know if that affects how you write Nightwolf.
Well, the 12 issues have already been written. They're already done. If anything, the only thing I tweak is like maybe dialogue. Just because as a more mature writer, I think there's things that that hit me wrong whenever I'm lettering it. I'm just like, ooh, you know what I mean? Like, so I might update that a little bit. But the story hasn't changed. The goal hasn't changed. So that is basically how it is. However,
I was sorry. I was going to ask if even the art or what you had envisioned for the art might have changed, because clearly I think art has gotten better in the last 5 years.
Well, I mean, no
disrespect to like issue 1, but issue 8 is much better art wise than issue 1.
Oh, of course. Well, issue 1 started off. So Carlos,
it's not a knock at Carlos. It's just because people.
Well, Carlos left in the middle of issue 1 and came back in issue 4. So like there's like most of issue 1, 2, and 3 is done by Bakuman Studio, who took over for Carlos. And then Carlos came back in 4 and has gradually gotten better as we've been going. So that's why there might be a little bit of you can see there's a big difference. And
I wasn't even talking about that. I was talking about just more influences in art. Obviously, I think a lot of people have leveled up lately. I also think that there's a lot more influence to draw from. I also think that we go through art cycles where clearly when the world is going left, art's going to go a certain direction. And when it's going right, we're going to go different. not political. I'm just using directions for whatever good reason. But if there's a lot more war or a lot more violence, art tends to reflect that.
Yeah, I mean, so whenever I write the scripts, I have a very specific vision of. I write the panels out very descriptively. Carlos has the opportunities to adjust them to make them look better, unless there's a particular pacing that I want to keep. So like he and I will work together to try and make the best layout possible. And I think the fact that he and I have been doing this together for, the last, several years, we've been doing, improving our teamwork, if you will. And then of course, Gat, with his colors, like just knocks it out of the park all the time. But then where like with Snowpaw, I'm writing Snowpaw on the fly, every issue because, it wasn't pre-existing, a couple of years ago. So I'm, so that's like, my downtime is trying to figure out, what my next move is for Snowpaw, trying to finish that story arc up. And then also I'm forward thinking about, okay, well, I need to start getting back. Issue 13 of Nightwolf is partially written. I already know where I want to go with it. I just have to finish, so what I mean? Like I'm in between fulfillment, marketing, and everything else. And, with all the stuff that, putting the books together, lettering.
And also having a life.
Yeah, well, right, exactly. Yeah, and I'm not even talking about my full-time job or my family at this point. This is like my spare time stuff.
That's the thing, is that it's crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why I ask this is because, when you have something that's being released every 3 months,
mm-hmm.
you have time to tweak things. You have time to also adjust. You also have time to, I guess, elevate and even see how your audience is reacting. I mean, it's a weird thing where, and I sure brought this up to you, and I probably have, but the show Ruby is obviously it's Rooster Teeth. That whole thing with them selling off Rooster Teeth, WBD, Warner Brothers Discovery. But one of the cool things is that Ruby grew with its audience.
Mm-hmm.
So if you came in when you were 12 and then you're 16 or 15 and 16, you're ready for season 3 when it went dark.
Right.
And there's something to be said about a show growing with its audience.
Well, I think that's kind of like where I'm going with Snowpaw, more so with Nightwolf. Like it was already planned that way, right? And then like after the 12 issues, season 2 will start, and it's going to be. I mean, he's going to have a harder time. Let's not even kid. Shit's going to happen by issue 12 that people are probably going to get mad at me for, like. But shit's going to get harder for him moving forward.
His car gets destroyed. His nice, beautiful red convertible just gets destroyed. And it's like a limited edition Corvette, and it gets destroyed. And he loved that car.
Right.
And, it was his bed, the car, his family.
But then with Snowpaw, it's planned to start, like the first story arc is for younger readers, right? So it's planned for girls. Anybody can enjoy it, but my initial reading and writing.
You're telling me I can't read it. That's fine. I'll leave right now. I'm a evil offender.
Look, if you haven't read it already, you're missing out. But what I'm saying, the initial idea for when I wrote the story is I wanted it coming from a female's perspective, so that like my daughter and girls getting into comics could enjoy it, but also obviously male readers can enjoy it as well, because still my main.
I'm just fucking with you.
Right.
I'm fucking with you.
Oh, I know, right?
I'm fucking with you on a whole new level. Like,
yeah. But my point to like what you were saying though is about the audience growing with the books. That's kind of like where Snowpaw is initially is. So it's kind of skews younger as she, because like this is her beginning as when she's 18, and it's more of an open fantasy situation. Whereas like as time goes on, the world changes and fantasy creatures are starting to dwindle away. Things are happening, like to why it gets to be so dark when we get to Nightwolf. So there's just much like the world at that time getting darker, growing through the world wars and, continuing into today. Shit happens, and I'm kind of playing with that, and it kind of gets darker, older, as that time period comes closer to the present timeline.
So I got like a chill there. Ooh, you ever feel one of those? Just comes on. No, because I think it's really interesting when you have long story arcs. And I haven't had a conversation with Ed Davis. And I think you know who Ed Davis is, right?
Yeah.
Is the Immortal Era. Like if you're doing 39 or 50 issues, you have to grow with your audience. I mean, there gets a point, and even with Nightwolf, and obviously things are darker, but like, and I think Snowball's interesting where if this thing starts going for where if it was written for your daughter 6, 7, 8, and then those kids are becoming 9, 10, 11, and you got like 6, 7 issues, and you're doing it every 3 months or every 4 months, obviously you're only releasing 1 or 2 issues a year. Like they're going to get a point when you're at issue 6 that your readership or who the book's intended for is 3 years older.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with keeping it at that nice level of being, I don't know what we call that age group. But keeping it at a 6, 7, 8, years old level, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But there's also a point where you say you might lose some readers in the process.
Look, there's I already like the second story arc for Snowpaw gets it, like shit hits the fan immediately. So like there's that like kind of safe haven for these fantasy creatures.
Our beautiful Corvette
yes, the beautiful Corvette, it gets destroyed in the second story arc.
If I ever do a retail cover, it's going to be Snowpaw, and it's going to be her and her pink Corvette in the countryside.
Barbie pink Corvette popping up behind going.
And you're just going to see her, and it's going to be flipped on its side, and you're just going to see her crying, and it's going to be great. I can sell it to that cover so quickly. In fact, I'm going to order 200 copies, and every guest at my wedding is going to get one of those. You know, I'm going to do it too. It's just going to be really funny.
That would be hilarious.
Imagine I did that and everybody gets like a goodie bag of 3 comics, and it's all the indies, and
you're gonna be like, "What is this?"
I'm gonna film it, and you're like, "Oh my god, this motherfucker!" Like, and then everybody gets a shot at Jack. So it's gonna be great with an ice cream cake as my wedding cake. This is you're really just prepping me up for Saturday night with just stand-up comedy while I sit down. I'm on fire right now. But no. That's actually really interesting though, where because I just think it's an art to grow with your audience is all I'm gonna say.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, that's just it. Like, and it also. It makes sense to do that, like you said, because of longevity, but also like I feel like, even when you have different, like even if everything was all together ready, right? You want to have that growth to build towards the story. You want to make sure that like you're, and I always said that like the timeline with Nightwolf and Snowpaw is like she's point A and his story starts on M. And then we go to Z, right? So you got to have like, there's that level of darkness, from there. So you have, you got to get to that, and meet the air in the middle. And there's reasons why. And that's why I love with the 200 years that I get to play with Snowpaw, there's so much possibility and so much story to tell. And I'm actually excited, but because it like opens it up to all the things that like I've been thinking about, but I couldn't exactly show it in this, this linear timeline with Nightwolf.
See, it's interesting. I'm a big Avatar: Last Airbender fan, and they did the first show, and then they did Korra. But what they were smart to do is Korra takes place 60 years pretty much after, or Aang.
Yeah, well, after Aang had to die for her to exist.
So 45 years, give or take. But then it's 45 years plus 18.
Yeah, because she's
16, 18. I forget.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Point is that it takes place roughly 60 years later. Mm-hmm. So you have 60 years that they could still play with for the first Avatar series, and they've done it in the graphic novels. Then what they did is that they went back to Kyoshi, and Kyoshi takes place before Roku.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're going back 100 years, then another 100 years, and then 200 years because Kyoshi lived. So we're going back 400 years in Avatar in the novels. There's so much content to play with.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And,
Believe me, and that's the beauty about, like, I could go back even further because I could either go do a Silvermane line like with his Viking stuff, or I could even go back further. Like, I even know where like the beginning of the werewolf epic story creation like comes in. Like, I have that already figured out.
let me ask the question though: is that where do you even know to start? Because obviously this is a business, right? And I think Snowball worked, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where and I don't know if you pumped a little money in or you took a risk on it or it was just the recycling of the money and then it was your seed money being reutilized.
Yeah, I mean, it was a basically in lieu of doing the next Nightwolf, I put the money towards doing her, and it paid off.
but it's a risk, right?
Yeah.
So that's my question, is that this is where I also think this is interesting in comics, is that where do you put your capital to the best position? So if you go and say Nightwolf number 3 or Nightwolf or Snowball number 1, that's a tricky situation sometimes too.
Mm-hmm.
That, I mean, I hate to say this, but Nightwolf was working and is still working to some degree. So what is that like? Is that those are tough decisions and those are business decisions.
Well, it wasn't just my decision. It was something I wanted to do, but I also asked my audience. Like, I will pull my audience on things that I want to see what they. So I felt like, I think because I had just done issue 5 of Nightwolf, where I was getting ready to launch it. It was around then. And I was like, okay, Nightwolf is standing on its own 2 feet at this point. It's time to do another series alongside. And I have other titles on my website that I want to do. So I put the 3 titles plus a Snowpaw Origins as the 4 options for them to pick. And Snowpaw was the clear winner. So the fact that they wanted this series over any, my other stuff, it was a no-brainer. And, the fact that, like, there's so much history with her, and she's my favorite character. Even like, it's funny because, like, Nightwolf is like my first baby, right? And I love writing him and I love doing it. But, like, there's something, and I think I put like what I wanted her to be. Like, I put more thought into it because, like, I didn't want to just have like a modern like werewolf come in and be like, I'm going to train you how to be a werewolf, right? I wanted to put, I put so much thought into her, what I thought would be crazy and great to write for, that, like, she's like my favorite character to even write her, in her voice, giving her, I actually put a lot of thought into why she wears the kilt, in the leather. Like, I wanted to be able to, like, grow into it while changing. So that was like one main thing. And I think people saw that and came for it and, instantly fell in love with the series.
That's interesting. Again, I take risk all the time, and sometimes I'm okay with it, and sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I understand. And you win some, you lose some.
I mean, and I doing the kids book, the doing it on Kickstarter wasn't exactly the best idea because, like you said, you have to be 18 plus, and kids aren't parents are buying books for kids at stores or, online that they can get instantly. Right. Whereas this
also grandma and grandpa aren't really on Kickstarter.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, it was a risk and it barely paid off. So, like, but
let me put it this way though, right? Let's actually talk about that too, because feel free to challenge me on this, but I think there's 2 positions for Kickstarters, right? So on a business level,
mm-hmm.
the idea is that you have that rare collectible stuff, which is, Nightwolf number 1 or the floppies or even the graphic novel stuff,
right,
is kind of, I think, what you're doing, and everything is relatively paid for, but you're trying to get some shipping and some other stuff and recoup some of your seed money, right?
Right.
So is that a fair assessment of that in the short run?
Yeah.
The other thing is saying, look, I know this is a $10,000 project, but I'm looking to raise five because there's a secondary market that I think exists for this item, but
Mhm.
I want to just defer some costs where I could do this myself, right?
Mhm.
All by myself. You could have, I don't know if you could have done the children's book. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No,
But,
that would have, if that didn't fund, I was, that was not happening.
but you understand the theory. What I'm saying is that if somebody says, look, I have the $10,000 to do this, but if I can raise five, it's going to defer some of those costs. And so now I only have to pump in five, but I have some skin in the game already where it's just a matter of printing it and getting the tchotchkes and all that stuff in there. So the idea is that I know that the real money's in the secondary market when I'm at a convention,
Right.
but I just want to develop a product and I want this product to expand my business into a different direction to be more friendly when I'm at a con because dad wants Nightwolf and Johnny, his 6-year-old son, says,
Mhm.
oh, it's a picture book. And dad wants to look good for mom and for him so that mom doesn't yell at him for buying a comic book.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but my point is that that's the other side of the Kickstarter position sometimes
Mhm.
is that it's a loss in the short term
Yeah.
for a
Oh, yeah.
long term.
Yeah. So for that one, like I printed like 3,000 copies of the kids book, even though I didn't make as much as I made the 10, not for lack of like digging and trying and figuring that out. I even like had to make a couple like website deals to then have that money put into the Kickstarter. Cause like it was at the point where like it wasn't going to fund in the last 2 days. I actually was like, okay, my dad had 2 friends who needed websites. So that was 2 websites that were paid for, put into so they basically, instead of paying me directly, that went into the Kickstarter and then I made their sites. So, but had it not been funded, I wouldn't, have done it. But I also, when it was funded at 10K, it was, I think, just a little bit higher than that. Still, I went a little bit, tightened the belt on that, and I printed more because I knew I could build an audience after the fact at cons or other places, or sell them later on Kickstarters or BackerKit or whatever. Because I still like I'm selling them at each campaign. People are buying them as add-ons, or I take them to cons and I'm selling them there. So originally, being able to have more on hand may not have like helped me to be able to recycle back into stuff like I could do with like the books, with my comics and stuff.
But it could provide cash flow.
Right. Exactly. It's providing new cash flow and it's building a new audience for me to then, if I go and do another Wolfpack Pups, that audience will be there then.
No, because you understood why I was asking this because that's exactly the thing. So like the reason why I sell cards right now is that I'm making $1 a card on the most part, which is not much, and 90 cents to $1. But those things sell really quickly that it provides me a lot of cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're sufficing debt and handling debt and pushing off debt plus a little bit extra, and you're slowly tackling a large amount of debt, but you keep delaying that debt by 30 or 60 days, and then it's getting lower and lower and lower because you have cash flow, which allows you to do that. That's a huge upside.
Mm-hmm.
It's not pretty, but it's helpful. And cash flow is king, without a doubt.
Oh, yeah.
I have no problem with debt. No. I love debt. I used to hate debt. I hate not having cash flow because debt with cash flow is manageable. Debt without cash flow is death.
Yes, exactly.
So that's how I feel. But that's why I think your children's book. But that thing was brutal, man. That thing was brutal. I watched that came out. I'm like, oh my god, man. Like
I know, right? Yeah. Like I said, if it wasn't for those last, like 2 websites.
Me and Joel Souza, I forget his book. I like him a lot. Like we were talking about that, and I'm like, oh my god, that campaign is not going to make it. Like it's not you. It wasn't you. It was just that it was tough, man.
Yeah. Well, Kickstarter is tough for kids books. It is what it is. I mean, like I said, having made those website deals help get that over the, put that again. It's me putting my own skin in the game. I did work outside of the comic realm to then put that back in there, if you will. So because it's something I believed in and something I wanted to do. So I guess that does go back to your question about putting money in. Even though I didn't directly put the money in, I earned the money by doing work. You know what I mean? So I guess yes, I did put a little bit more skin in the game even for that one because I wanted to. I felt it was worth it to put it out there, and now I have that.
I put a lot of skin in the game for a lot of things, and I feel you, and I understand, and I get it completely. Trust me, the way that I've expanded is that I use this company called Inbox Dollar, and I do online surveys. I get $1.75, and that's the way how you buy books. Is that all of a sudden you do, in a month like $60, and you could buy 3 comic books, and so that's an extra $3, 3 books I can buy, and then I sell them. But I put in work for that. That took time doing something, but then I convert, and then it's first dollar in, first dollar out, and then you go put it on the Knicks, and then they Pacers destroy them. But that was upsetting. We don't have to talk about that. We don't have to talk about that. No. It was great. It was great. The Knicks made me a lot of money that series. But game 7, I lost like $5. I was upset. But Boston, oh my God, Boston made me a fucking fortune. They made me a fortune. The war with the Heat last year, oh my God, brilliant. That was when the tip in with like legitimately 0.2 seconds left.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. That game made me like $600.
Nice.
I was like, I'm gonna lose money. And I'm like, I'm all right with this. I'm gonna sleep fine. And I'm like, oh my God, I spent a lot of money. But anyway, no. But I do want to talk about Kickstarter, because are you funded yet?
Yes.
Because that was also rough, man. This campaign took a while to fund.
Yeah, but that didn't surprise me. So for my volume 1, I'm actually ahead of that campaign. So if you compare timelines, it's so I think because most of my audience comes for the single issues, right? This is coming. This is for the people who particularly they want the trade, or they're like the collector who wants everything, right? So I kind of expected this to not be as far or as high as my previous single issues, but again, it's doing better than the previous.
So let me ask this then, because this actually, I'm curious. So you obviously, how do you measure a campaign? Because I don't know if you can properly measure a graphic novel against a floppy issue, or even if you can measure it against all the floppy issues like 1 through 8, right? Because obviously, if you fund that's the easy thing. So if everything funds, everything funded, right? But beyond that, I don't know if volume 1 hardcover campaign can be put up against 1 through 5 floppy issue campaigns, because I don't know. You tell me, because
so the way I look at it is backer count, and average dollar spend, and then so they give you a timeline in the dashboard of Kickstarter that you can see each day what you did, and you can see the chart go, up or down or whatever. So I like to compare like days, in comparison to previous campaigns. And I kind of, at this point, I kind of know like how a campaign is going to perform at a certain point. And, with the last year, it's been a little bit more difficult because of the economy. So this one already doing better, like in comparison to volume 1 and volume 2, this one already, considering the fact that this year hasn't been the best for Kickstarters, that this is doing better than volume 1, when Kickstarter was like, at its, I wouldn't say at its peak, but like, doing really well, because that's when people had money.
Because this is what I was curious about, is that obviously, I mean, I think the last 2 times we spoke, or at least the last time, funding was rough too then. And so like, and I don't think it's you, I think it's everybody.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, look, I still ended very well with my campaign last time. Did I make the numbers that I wanted to? Not exactly. I always want to do better than the previous campaign, but backer count was still high, and I was happy with that. So in the end, they weren't going for the higher end campaign tiers. You know, I had a lot more digitals. I had a lot more of like the standard issues.
That's been interesting. Where somebody was on a stream and they were explaining that they have more backers than they had before, but their digital backers have outpaced anything else. And
I
the
would
market.
say that they've outpaced for me, but there are a lot more than there used to be.
So what the guy was saying is that he has like a 15% increase in digital. And what he compared some of the names, and some people were buying the physicals the last campaign are now buying only digitals.
Which makes sense. Again, so this kind of goes back to, it could be a few reasons. It's that people want to read it, which is good. That shows if people were willing to still come support you, read the digital, that means they enjoy the story. It also means that they might be having financial troubles, right? So, but they're still coming in to read the book. Can they come back later and get a physical? Yes, they can go. They can, you know, I always do backer kit, or there's always ways to get the back issues. So that's something that, you know, as long as they want to keep reading and they're still doing it, they're still coming along for the ride. There's still the opportunity that they can still get a physical copy, or they're waiting for the trade. You know, that's like we talked before. Like they're like, okay, well, I need to save room. Now I'm going to just wait until the trade's done. Now, like, and now it's not a secret. Obviously, every 4 issues I've been doing a trade. You know what I mean? So looking at like between like 5, 6, and 7, the issues, I think issue 6 and 7 were pretty. They both were really high on my backer count. And then issue 8 was a little less, but it was still high. But then again, it was like that was 8, so maybe they were waiting for the trade, or maybe they're waiting for another opportunity. You know what I mean? Or they're having financial troubles because again, the economy is not great right now. You know, like I said, it's, you know, there's so many different things that could happen, go on, or whatever. Or as you said, my audience is getting older. I know for a fact that a few of my regular large spending backers, a few of them have passed away. And I found that out either due to a family member replying back to an email that I had sent, or saying, hey, my father passed away. He can't fulfill your thing. Please stop email, you know, stuff like that. It's like, it's sad when that stuff happens. But I am thankful for the members who keep coming back and allowing me to do this. Cause I'm happy with the amount of people coming back. Whether my dollar amount's high as it should be or not, it doesn't matter to me. As long as
I have a different theory.
Huh?
I have a third theory that's also, I think, in play to some degree.
Okay.
I have become what is known as a disenfranchised Kickstarter backer, where part of the reason why I'm slowing down and backing is that money's tight, that's a given, or delays of projects and also unfulfilled projects without any communication. And so I'm losing faith in the system. And I don't think I'm alone. I don't. We look at people like Luke Stone with Fund My Comic or Fund My India. I forget the name, but either one it is, you know, there are more rules and regulations on that. There's the issue that just happened on Kickstarter with the Stripe Not for Safe Work thing. So I really think that there's also that in play to some degree. And I don't think it's in full swing. I think people not getting their books, people getting their books really late, I think that's an issue as well, because I'm becoming that way. That's one of the main reasons why I'm backing less and less.
Which is fair. That's fair. I don't necessarily think that's a case in my, like, that's not like one of my cases, I think, because I do get a lot of people coming back. And really, matter of fact, at this point, looking at the back numbers, majority of my backers are returning backers. For me, it's finding the new audience. So that's my issue at the moment too, is like, okay, have I exhausted my resources on where, you know, should I find a new social platform? Where do I find a new reader base? You know what I mean?
Is it that you have to drill a new well? and that not to use like an oil position, but like it's kind of like you go through a mine, right? You're mining whatever you're mining.
Mhm.
There gets a point where you've done every shaft and you can no longer explore any shafts safely.
Right.
So you either have to dig down further into it and create a new shaft down below, and that could be expensive,
Mhm.
or maybe it's time to start mining silver and not gold. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, again, yeah, it's there's so many different reasons for things, but I'm happy with my backer counts so far on this campaign. I'm happy with my previous campaigns, my last two for Night with 8 and for Snowpaw. They both are like, they're close to where the last ones were. So backer count, I'm happy. It's again, people just aren't spending as much as they used to be, and that's you and I have talked about that, and hey, I'm here and I'm going to stick it out. And if things turn around, cool. If they stay the same, if they maintain that plane, I can keep going.
I have a theory on everything with this, and here's I think the United States economy is in perfect correlation with the MCU.
I mean, yeah, ever since Endgame, everything went to hit the shitter.
So hear me out on this, though. The MCU is a disaster. What's a disaster right now? The U.S. economy. And it makes sense, right? Because what drove all the stuff directly and indirectly is that you had a lot of money poured into comics. So
Mhm.
when you got Captain America or Iron Man coming out and people are buying shirts, and yeah, what was it? The economy bounced back in what, 2 years after 2008, give or take. So,
Yep.
okay, so it was a bit of a rough patch, but they were on a bull run for like 14 years, give or take, the
Right.
United States economy. And what was on a bull run? Marvel movies. And
Yeah.
then that drove Pop Funko sales, T-shirts, and that eventually made its way into comics, graphic novel stories. And
Mhm.
even if you call it 1% of that, or even 0.5% of that, it was such a large number of legitimately $200 billion plus being pumped into all this shit. No,
Mhm.
even more than that, even more, probably more like 5 trillion. If we're gonna be really honest, was pumped into all this shit. And then if you got 0.5% of that, a lot of money was pumped into comics, which led back into indie, and now that's out. And because the U.S. economy is a disaster, and Marvel, without that major pump and that major economic expenditure of IPs, which ultimately leads downward because it's trickled down.
Mhm.
That's a real macro analysis.
I mean, it definitely it could be a huge part of it. That's for sure.
So I actually think why we're all having problems in indie comics is because Marvel is not working.
Well,
And it's
Disney needs to get the crew back together.
no. I think what's going to happen. I think in about 18 months, the economy's going to turn around, and I think we're going to be on another major bull run again.
That's what I'm
18.
hoping for.
What did you say?
That's what I'm hoping for.
I'm hoping for it too. I think it's going to get worse. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. I don't think we're going to see another 2008. I don't think we're going to see another. Was Reagan in the 80s?
Yes.
Yeah, you're older than me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you should know this better than I do.
Mhm.
So I don't think it's going to be as bad as Reagan, but I do think it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I don't think it has anything to do with who's in charge of the White House.
No,
I
I mean, at this point, it's a sinking ship, it's going to be hard to turn that thing around.
No. When you have a sinking ship, it's easy. You coat the top and you make a submarine. This isn't hard. It's called being innovative. I'm sorry that I'm here trying to submerge America to victory.
Well, then maybe you should run so you can start making it as a submarine.
I'm
Because this is
31.
the outside thinking that we need.
I'm 31. I got 4 years to start going, and I'm absolutely gonna run on the Bull Moose Party. We're gonna bring it back. It's gonna be great. we're gonna go all the way. We're gonna go all the way. I'm gonna run on the idea that my 13-year-old puppy will not be shot. I think it's a safe one here to drop that one in there. We might have to let the goat go though. out into the wilderness. It can fend for itself. Only in what was that? South Dakota. Only in South Dakota. Only in South Dakota. Oh my God. Just but no. I feel you on that. But yeah. So no, I'm always curious what you think.
About which?
Kickstarter.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, like I said, I think it's that things are going to continue a downward spiral, but eventually, like everything, things cycle back. I think once you get to the bottom, it'll start climbing. Just like with anything, once you're at the bottom, there's only one way to go: is back up.
I'm an S&P 500 guy, and I bet on America. I do not think America is any time done. I think there are problems, but I think we always bounce back, and I believe that this happens. What is it? Every 7 years it's supposed to happen, and this is just clockwork to me. So I'm a strong believer that if you're in this space right now, just grab a life vest.
Well, I think too, like part of the problem is that like with like inflation and everything, I feel like over the years inflation hasn't like come down at all. Like it just kind of is like it's like come to a point where it stops and getting, and then like there's that maintaining, and then it starts to inflate again, and the dollar becomes less.
It just goes, plateaus, you adjust, you accept it, and then it goes up again, and then it does it again.
Right.
It's how I expand my business. I go through expansion and plateauing and expansion and plateauing.
But the problem with that is that eventually, like, it's going to get to the point where the cost of living is getting too ridiculous, and like they really need to like basically pop the bubble and bring down bring down all the inflation instead of letting it plateau and be used to it.
I mean, I have a theory on how that's going to happen. I have a really good theory on how that's going to happen. The commercial real estate bubble is going to pop late this year or early next year.
I mean, yeah, who can afford the houses?
And so commercial real estate is not the same as home real estate or residential real estate. What's going to happen, though, is that when all those bonds get reissued and redealt with at higher or lower rates, when bonds get out there, that's going to lower mortgage positions. Because we already saw that with First Republic Bank when that whole thing went down and Silicon Valley Bank went down when those bonds weren't good. And they were 2% bonds when you could go buy a 4% bond for the same price or even better, which is why that bank failed. The bank failed because it's not that it didn't have the money. It didn't have the capital to suffice its customers or even hold off or medicate their customers, for lack of a better word. So what I think is going to happen is that I think we need a commercial real estate failure, which will help deal with housing and mortgages. It won't help with building a house. That's a whole different problem. There's a house building it here, which is an issue. But when you could go to the Cheesecake Factory for the price of going to Burger King, I mean, one of those places is nicer than the other.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's like now going to Taco Bell. I could go to the Mexican, like the actual Mexican restaurant up the road and get more food for the same amount that I'm paying for Taco Bell now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, oddly enough, the pizza has been relatively stable. Oddly enough, a slice of pizza sounds pretty good.
Bread is cheap.
Hey, it tastes pretty good too. So, but I definitely think that with Kickstarter, I mean, I think the biggest issues is that art's going up too.
Yes.
So I mean, the issue is that, and I don't necessarily know.
And shipping, that's another thing that keeps going up. It hasn't come down.
That is true. And people yell at me for charging $7 to ship a comic, and I'm like, that's what it costs.
Because they're so used to Amazon charging $0, which is bullcrap. Because like they're paying for it somewhere, they're just not seeing it.
You're paying for it because you buy an Amazon Prime account for $200, and they charge you the shipping up front on that $200. They bond out that money in a collective position, and then they get an interest payment every single fucking month off of that, or in a high yield savings account, which basically covers the shipping, and they eliminate their competition in the process. So even if they lose $1,
that's what I'm saying.
if you put mom and pop's, furniture store out of business, there's only one place left to go.
Mm-hmm.
That's Amazon.
That's right.
There's nothing wrong with Amazon. It's just that you got to know what you're doing. If you sleep fine and not doing that, be my guest. But the real question with the people who are doing that is that, are you doing it intentionally, or are you doing it because you're saving what you think is money, which you are saving money technically. If you buy a lot of shit on Amazon, you are saving money.
If you buy it often, whereas like I'm the type of guy that I'm like, if I can't find it locally, then I'll look elsewhere, and then if I can't find it anywhere, then I force myself to buy from Amazon.
My dog's food is automatic on Amazon, so it comes weekly, every Saturday. It's just on my doorstep.
We do Chewy.
Yeah, no, it's like Blue like Harvest or something. It's great.
Mm.
I can't do Chewy, not after the GameStop incident. No. I did not play in that space, everybody. That scared the shit out of me. And I'm glad I didn't, because I would have no idea how to short that stock or long it. No, thank you. GameStop is a dinosaur and it's gotta go. But I know the company that should buy GameStop. Bad Bug. I don't know if you got the joke, and I'm gonna leave it at that. If you don't know, if you know the joke, you got it. If you don't know the joke, I'm sorry. It's a massive inside joke, for a lot of reasons, and it's not a negative one. It's a good one though. If you know the joke and you watched my show enough, you will have known the joke, everybody. So, but I digress. But I do want to ask you one more thing before I give you a chance to promote yourself. Yep. How do you feel about the not safe for work stuff that's just happened on Kickstarter? Because I don't know anything about it, just beyond the fact that they basically said you got like 3 days left, and we're Stripe, and that's our payment processor, and we're gonna just cancel your campaign. That's all I know.
So it's been like whispered and for the last like 2 months now that like Kickstarter was going to start cracking down because Stripe is cracking down. And then this was the first that I seen that like actually was taking, like before it was like, okay, you need to like change your images. Like Pat Shand had to change some images for one of his campaigns, and a couple other people like that. But that was like the one that they canceled like 3 days before the end of the campaign, was like the first time that they actually like went after or something like that. So like, I think that's going to get worse before it gets better. If it ever gets better. I just think that like in the cases of like the Kickstarters who are doing it, they have to be more cognizant of how they're representing that stuff. Like they might have to go a little bit more cloak and dagger if they still want to do that stuff. You know what I mean?
Again, I don't really know what happened. Obviously, I'm a free speech absolutist. I get that Kickstarter is not government, and free speech only applies to the government. But it's citizens. It's a contract between government and its citizens. It's not a contract between you and me.
And that's kind of like, so with Stripe, because it's.
I go to the point where Stripe might be a public access and a public utility to some degree.
That
really making fair positions on that, sort of like PayPal. Can you live without Stripe? And then you go into that, and then you go into consumer protections and a bunch of other stuff. And does it extend to a First Amendment right? And that's a complicated issue.
Well, but here's the thing: like it's with the credit cards, it's a common thing. So people are like, well, what about Pornhub? They have to use these credit cards and stuff too. These processors, they have to pay a 30% charge. Like they have to pay 30% fees to be able to do stuff. So the fact that like right now, I think the fees is 10% of that Kickstarter pays. Basically what it comes down to is like they're not making that 30% fee for this porno stuff, if you will, adult content. And I think they're like, okay, well, we're going to start shutting that down because we want you to, because they're probably going to be like, all right, well, if you want to be able to do this, then you got to pay these extra fees that basically do these extra protections and whatever excuses that they make for, so that they can make more money.
No. I mean, again, I don't know anything about it. I'm all in which that obviously I play in a lot of interesting spaces and I'm an interviewer. And so I have a very different opinion. I deal with a lot of people in the adult industry and I'm very much concerned because I don't know I don't know where the line is exactly. And I think it's complicated. And I think
And they
that
haven't drawn the line. That's the problem at this point. It's just like whoever's fact checking, it's kind of like, when you're posting a meme on Facebook and it's up to who is looking at your thing, whether they feel it's appropriate or not, and they ban you.
It's funny. I put up your interview for Facebook and it said it violated the community guidelines.
And how's that?
And then I waited 2 minutes later, went right through.
So weird.
It did it on my Facebook page. It didn't do it on my personal page.
Yeah.
Which I'm streaming too. And I was like, what's that? I've never seen that before.
Right.
That's really, really weird. Now YouTube has their own guidelines where you could talk about porn, you could talk about anything you want, sexual on YouTube for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Can't share a porn link on YouTube.
Hmm.
They flag you for that shit like crazy.
Yeah.
Which even if you what is it? Tiny URL it, they'll catch it. They'll catch it.
Yeah.
Now YouTube, if you made the mistake, because I made the mistake because I was sharing Savannah Fox's link tree, and YouTube didn't like that. Which I didn't think it was a big deal. It had her social media on it, and then it had like her clips from sale store. Like I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Now YouTube was gracious enough to shoot me a message, said, "Hey, take our quiz, take this, do this. We're going to just give you a warning, and if you do this in 90 days, you're good. 90 days passed, there's no incidents, no problem, right? Because guess what? You make a mistake, you should not be killed for it." And YouTube was
if you don't know, it's a slap on the wrist, right? That's it.
And I was like, oh snap! I appealed it. Then I took their thing. They're like, yo, we're just gonna give you a warning. Just don't do this again. You got 90 days on good behavior. No issues for 90 days. Strike disappeared, right?
Yeah.
But you didn't. I didn't know. I thought it was okay. If I put up Evie, who I just did before you, her social media, YouTube has no problem with it.
Yeah.
Her Twitter account, no problem. They have a problem with the link tree if it's somewhat like that.
Right.
But it's really interesting. So. But again, I don't really know how I feel about this because I get that they're a private company, but I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something to keep our eyes out for because I with Nightwolf I do some not safe covers, so I have to maneuver to make sure that I don't get with it. So but again, this campaign I have a couple of digital versions for showing, but it's not it's showing the nice version. I'm not showing. And I'm not saying NSW, not safe for work. I'm saying, spicy.
I'm also curious where if it was it just art or was it a human? Like a cosplayer topless?
No, it was just art that got dinged.
Because I'm really curious if it's a cosplayer topless or nude, because that's also out there right now.
That specific campaign that got shut down with the 3 days left or whatever, that was all illustrated.
Because I know eBay really hates topless cosplayers, and they really hate they hate a little less illustrated topless. And you got to be really, really, really careful on that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They're punitive, like 10-day suspensions. So your first one, you get a warning, right? Your second one, you get a day suspension. Your third one, you get a 3-day. Fourth, you get a 7-day. And then you get a 10-day. 10 days means everything that you have listed, you could sell, and if it sells, you're good. You can't list anything for 10 days.
Crazy.
That's just punitive as fuck.
Yeah.
And it is brutal. I've been in those situations where I had like a 5-day suspension. I'm like, what the hell, guys? and so this is why I don't carry nude books, because I can't afford a 5-day suspension or a 10-day.
Yeah, because you have everything else you need to sell.
And then there's other things where I'm like, dude, like this, and then they flag shit that's not even nude. Like they flagged with me and they gave me a warning on a Red Sonja cover.
Like I said, it depends on who's looking.
It depends on who's looking. Yeah, without a doubt.
Which is a shame. Like, it shouldn't be up to the person looking. It should be a hard, this is what we have, this is what you can't have.
This is what AI should be for. So, seriously. There should be an AI bot on Kickstarter that runs through this, and it looks for A, B, C, and D, and you could agree or disagree with it, but it discriminates equally, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it shouldn't matter who you are.
Because if I look at it and you look at it, and we're running Kickstarter's whole trust and safety campaign, you and me are going to have a different opinion on things. I'm going to say, well, it's on the border. You know, I'm not going to ding it. And I'm going to say, it's on the border. I'm going to ding it, right? Unless it's and even if you're out of the picture, and I'm looking at 200 of these campaigns, there's going to be somewhere. Oh my God, it's 5 o'clock. I got one more to do. Fuck up. Just bad.
Yeah. Somebody had a bad day. Screw you.
You've had bad days too, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many? Every once in a while, you have a bad day, and you just tell everybody to fuck the fuck off, right?
I mean, I don't tell them to fuck off, but I'm definitely gruff and like.
Let me put it this way, okay? You ever have a bad day, and then you just snap at somebody, like, "Oh my God, my dad's in a bad mood. Yep. Maybe it's not a good time to ask him for my $5 allowance. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow."
Yeah. That. I mean, I can be a bit snappy, but I'm not,
So my father's been like that sometimes. So that's all I'm gonna say. But I digress. I was just curious your opinion on this, because I don't really know anything beyond my personal beliefs, and I don't even know what the hell happened. I don't know the campaign either. So
yeah, I've been looking at it, and everybody who has been covering, I've been kind of looking at it. But yeah, that's what I got from what I was watching and what people were saying.
Yeah, again, I don't know too much about it, but I'm not thrilled that even the spirit of freedom of speech or freedom of expression is potentially under attack.
Yeah.
Whether it is or it isn't, I don't know, but it's not a good feeling. It might be a good way to put it.
Yeah, I agree.
But again, it'll all be worked out.
Hopefully.
maybe somebody should just buy Kickstarter and be like, "Here's what we're doing, guys." We're gonna change.
Yeah.
But we can all dream. After I buy my WNBA team, we can all dream. I would love to have one of those. Oh my God, it'd be so much fun. I'd rename them too. It'd be great. You call them Pop Anime Comics. A cute little elf. Oh, I've got the mascot. It'll be great.
You have no choice. I bought you.
No, I think it'll be great. Maybe we could have Nightwolf as a sponsor. You have some money, so go right ahead. Like,
there you go.
We could have Nightwolf night. We could have Snowpaw night. It'll be great. Yeah, Snowpaw is the mascot. It'll be great. Maybe we'll change the name to the Priscillas. Is that her name, right?
No, Cirilla.
Cirilla. Oh, I'm sorry, Cirilla. There we go. We'll be the Cirillas just for you, and we could have Snowpaw as our mascot.
There you go.
And then on the first night we could have promotion night, and everybody gets a free copy of like a holofoil Snowpaw. Yeah, limited to those in attendance. See, you're liking this already, right?
Oh, yeah,
50 mil in, and we're good. Think about the amount of comics you will sell.
Oh yeah, that's the best marketing ploy ever.
National TV. when we beat the Indiana Fever, it'll look good. I'm telling you, national TV, right on the court. I mean, I forgot what the Liberty played in the Barclays Center. What they got, like 2.7 million watching. 2.7 million people watching the Snowpaw mascot.
There you go.
It's gonna all be yours. for the small admission of 50 million. No, think about it like this. Think about it like this, Rob. It's 50 million today, and it'll be 49 million tomorrow. Did I convince you yet to join?
It sounds great. Let's do it.
But anyway, all jokes aside, I do want to give you a chance to promote yourself. We've accomplished nothing here, so I'm very proud. As usual, the last 4 interviews were the most important interviews I've ever done with you, which means we accomplished nothing. I don't know why you keep coming back.
I mean, it's just good to chat, have fun.
I'm glad. I'm good. I feel special now. And warm and fuzzy. No, but in all seriousness though, what's going on with Nightwolf, the books, all that fun stuff, everything you got going on, and everything else that's out there.
Yes. Do you want me to pull up the campaign?
You could, yeah, sure, if you want to.
Yeah, sure. Make it a little bit easier. All right, I'm sharing. Can you see my screen?
I can't see anything. You might want to scroll up a little bit, and you might want to get to your campaign and not the charts.
Oh yeah, that's probably makes sense. Stop sharing.
I don't want to dox anybody. No, seriously, I don't want to be doxed on a campaign.
All right, let's try this again.
I respect people's privacies.
There we go. Is that better?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So, as we were talking, this is for the Nightwolf Volume 1 and 2 campaign. And so Volume 2 is the new one that collects issues 5 through 8. It has the 16 additional story pages. We are funded, and we are closing in on the first stretch goal. So as I was mentioning, the hardcovers are connected. And then you have like the different werewolves underneath. So there's the connecting scene here with the die-cut claws. When you open up the vellum werewolves over top of the human forms. And then, so this is a good mocked up version of the book in its back. And then we have, page previews, which for those of you who have been following along, a lot of these are similar to past campaigns you can see. For those of you who are new, take a look. You could read about the synopsis for each chapter. Check out all the great artwork. And then, so we'll head on down to, all right, so we're at right now, everybody who backs before June 6th, that's this Thursday, will get this free bonus print featuring Nightwolf and Snowpaw. And then we also have milestones. So we're actually 2 backers away from unlocking another one. So you can get on that and get those going. Stretch goals, as I mentioned, we have the 4 guest writers that basically the digital edition has the stories. This is to unlock the additional pages into the physical edition. So at 12, Clay Adams' story gets unlocked. At 14, Travis Gibbs. At 16, Kat Calamia's. And at 18, Pat Shan's will unlock. And then I have a couple book enhancement surprises if we get that far. And of course, we have the quotes from different people in the industry talking about how much they love the book. We have the Wolf Pack, showing their pride in getting the books and reading them and sending pictures. Some nice Facebook and Twitter and Instagram comments. People receiving all their awards for past campaigns. And then if you want to, viewers out there want to see all of the comments and everything, feel free to look through. So when we get to the rewards, you can get the Volume 2 digital edition for $15. That's 152 pages worth of content. Then you can get the digital catch-up. So that's Volume 1 and 2. Both have 152 pages. And there's the spicy edition with the nice version of the cover. Let's just say that that's not the one that you're actually going to get. And then we have the soft cover for Volume 2 that also comes with the digital edition. This is the Lone Wolf Comics digital collection. You can get all of Snowpaw plus Volumes 1 and 2 of Nightwolf. And then the hard, you can get the Volume 2 die-cut hardcover with the digital edition. You can get a spicy catch-up, so the 2 volumes, but with their spicy covers.
There's not mustard. Just not mustard.
It's not mustard. That's right. Then the spicy is you get all of the spicy extra stuff that you don't get in the regular digitals or books. So
you can have ketchup with it if you would like while you're reading.
Yeah, you can have ketchup and mustard and all kinds of stuff. Then this is the catch-up for the soft cover, so you can get Volume 1 and 2 in the soft cover edition. This is if you are a returning member and you want both versions, the soft and the hard. You can do a catch-up with both hard covers that are the connecting covers. We do have retailer tiers. So if you're a retailer, you can get caught up on all of the Lone Wolf comics thus far, put them in your shops. And then we also have a retailer for the hard covers. And then we have, so this is for everybody.
All the shit gets really expensive.
Yeah. Now we're getting into the big stuff. All the mystery editions and the premium stuff. CGCs and
basically at this point, if you want it all, this is what you do.
Yeah, if you want it all, you can have it all. And you want it now.
Is there anything that's not in those things?
Nope. That is everything that is available. And then of course the add-ons, the Volume 2 bookplate signed by myself and Carlos Herrera, sketch covers, you can get acrylic standees, of course the fun Legos that I always have. As we were talking before, the Wolfpack Pups, you can grab a digital or a coloring book, or you can grab the actual physical copy. You can grab the werewolf voodoo doll that is inspired the book. Then you can get the swag and all that as well. You can get the digital editions at. I'm almost done. My wife's giving me the eye. Anyway, so you can get the spicy editions if you if you wanted to get other things in the tiers, but you could also add these to your add-ons as well. The metal covers, and then I also do a consulting. So if you're launching a Kickstarter soon and you want some help on it and some advice, I am available. And that's limited. It's not, there's only a few of those available. And then you can get the mystery boxes without the trades if you just wanted to add those to whatever tier that you had, as well as original art.
Cool.
So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
And then obviously everything I got going on, I'm pretty much assuming anything Nightwolf, if you type that in, or Lone Wolf Comics is pretty much your stuff.
Yes, everything. Yeah, everything on Lone Wolf Comics is all my my creator-owned stuff.
I'm pretty sure people can find you pretty easily. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. At Lone Wolf Comics, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or X, I guess, instead of Twitter, whatever they call it now. And then lonewolfcomics.com. That's my website, and lonewolfcomics.com/Nightwolf will take you directly to that long Kickstarter URL.
Yeah, have fun reading it, guys. It took me like 10 minutes. But I joke, but obviously I'm gonna keep saying you got to support indie comics, support what people are doing. If you like products, you want to see more of them get made, supporting it, $5, $1, or $1,000 doesn't really matter. You should support it if you're interested in seeing product get made. So that's all I'm going to say on that front. And then as far as I'm concerned, I am Pop Anime Comics on Twitter/X, Pop Anime Comics on the Instagram, Pop Anime Comics on the Facebook, Pop Anime Comics on the YouTube. I got like 1,500 videos. I just surpassed 1,500 videos
Nice.
on YouTube. So pretty cool. And I can't promise that you'll get smarter with me, but I can assure you will be entertained. So keep that in mind. And I got a lot more content dropping. Hopefully by December, I'm gonna have about 2,100 videos out. So there's a lot of content to consume, and every day I'm dropping stuff around 3 o'clock, and the community tab's a lot of fun. So you never know what poll's going to be there. So vote your heart out, and I got some fun memes and some cool stuff there. So it's the place to be if you're not already there. But enough about that. And then I do have an eBay store, which is Pop Anime Comics Collectibles. Looking for comics and collectibles? Come shop with us. Deal with a lot of comics, cards, stuff like that. So again, I try to keep my prices as reasonable as humanly possible. And if I don't have something that you're looking for, ask, because I might have it. It might not be listed. Or if I don't have it, chances are I know somebody who does, and I will introduce you to them so that you can get what you need to get. And I've done it for plenty of people. So if you're just looking for some stuff, got you covered, because I know books are a pain in the ass to find. But yeah, anything Pop Anime Comics is mine, and that's everything I got. And I think that's a wrap, unless you have anything you'd like to say.
No, I think I said enough.
All right, everybody, that is a wrap.